My fiancé cheated on me 2 months before our wedding, so when he demanded the engagement ring back, I sold it instead, and I don't regret it the way everyone thinks I should. My name is Olivia Martinez. I'm 30. I live in Dallas, Texas, and until last fall, I thought I was about to marry the safest choice I'd ever made. His name is Liam Smith. We met at a FinTech networking event in Uptown Dallas. I'm a financial analyst. Liam was a software developer. We dated 3 years before he proposed. We split rent evenly in our apartment overlooking McKinney Avenue. The proposal happened during a long weekend trip to Lake Tahoe. We were standing near the water at sunset, mountains in the background like something out of a screensaver. He got down on one knee without a speech prepared, which somehow made it feel more sincere. I don't want to do life without you, he said. Simple. Direct. He opened the box. Oval diamond. Platinum band. Clean and classic. I didn't hesitate. I said yes before he finished asking. That night, I remember lying in the hotel bed staring at the ring under the lamplight and thinking, this is it. I picked the right one. We set the wedding for October in Dallas. Small guest list. Modern venue downtown. I handled most of the planning because that's what I do, I organize chaos. Liam handled the honeymoon research and kept joking, you do the spreadsheets, I'll do the beaches. The first few months of being engaged were normal. Boring, even. We argued about table layouts. We compared catering menus. We debated whether open bar was worth the cost. There were no screaming matches. No red flags waving dramatically. Just small things. He started staying late at work more often. Started going to the gym at strange hours. Started setting his phone face down on the coffee table. That one stuck with me. Liam had never been protective of his phone. But I told myself I was being paranoid. Stress does weird things to people. Weddings amplify everything. 8 weeks before the wedding, I left work early because a client rescheduled a quarterly review. I texted him that I'd pick up dinner. He didn't respond. That wasn't unusual. Sometimes he coded with headphones on. When I pulled into the apartment garage, I noticed his car wasn't there. Still not strange. But something made me check our shared location. We had turned it on years ago after I got stuck with a flat tire on I-35. It was practical, not romantic. His dot wasn't at work. It was at an apartment complex across town in Deep Ellum. I stared at the map. Maybe it was a bug. Maybe he was meeting someone about a side project. I drove home and waited. He walked in around 10:45 p.m., smiling like nothing was wrong. You're home early, he said. Yeah, client canceled. Nice. He smelled different. Not bad. Just different. I didn't say anything that night. But the next morning, while he was in the shower, his phone lit up on the kitchen counter. I wasn't planning to look. But the notification preview showed enough. Emma Johnson, last night was worth the wait. My body reacted before my brain did. Cold. Hollow. Emma. I knew that name. UX designer he'd mentioned from a tech conference. I didn't cry. I walked into the bathroom, held up his phone, and asked, who's Emma? The water shut off immediately. He stared at me for a second too long. It's not what you think. It always starts there. Last night was worth the wait? I asked. He grabbed for the phone. It didn't mean anything. How long? He sat on the edge of the tub, head in his hands. A few weeks. It turned out to be closer to 2 months. 2 months of venue deposits. 2 months of seating charts. 2 months of kissing me goodnight after leaving someone else's apartment. I didn't know how to stop it, he said. You could have started by not starting it, I replied. He cried. Actual tears. Said he was overwhelmed. Said he panicked about marriage. Said he still loved me. I asked him one thing that mattered. If I hadn't seen that message, would you have told me? He didn't answer. That silence was enough. The wedding's off, I said. He looked stunned. Olivia, don't make a decision you'll regret. I'm not the one who made the decision, I said quietly. He moved out within a week. Boxes. Silence. Atlas confused and hiding under the couch. I thought that was the worst part. It wasn't. 3 days after he left, I got a text. I need the ring back. And that's when I realized the breakup wasn't over. It was just shifting from emotional to financial. I need the ring back. That was the text. No apology. No, how are you holding up? Just logistics. 3 days after he moved out. I read it twice to make sure I wasn't projecting tone onto it. But there was no tone to project. It was clean. Efficient. Like he was asking for a laptop charger he left behind. I didn't answer right away. The ring was still on my finger. I hadn't taken it off yet. Not because I believed in it anymore, but because taking it off felt like admitting something permanent. A few minutes later, another text came through. Engagement rings are conditional gifts. We're not getting married. It's mine. He had that ready. I stared at that phrase, conditional gift, like it was a foreign language. Not because I didn't understand it. I'm a financial analyst. I understand contractual logic very well. I just didn't expect him to deploy it like that. I called him. He answered on the second ring. This doesn't have to be dramatic, he said immediately. You cheated, I replied. That's already dramatic. It didn't mean anything. It meant enough to risk our wedding. There was a long exhale on the other end. Olivia, I paid for the ring. And there it was. The math. I leaned back against the kitchen counter. And I paid for the venue deposit, I said. And the florist. And half the catering retainer. Are you reimbursing those? Silence. That's different, he said finally. Why? Because the ring was a gift contingent on marriage. He sounded like he'd rehearsed it. Like he'd read a few legal forums and decided that was the moral high ground. You were contingent on loyalty, I said. And that didn't happen either. That's not how this works. No, I agreed. It's not. He shifted tactics. If this goes to small claims court, you'll lose. That caught me off guard. So that's where your head is? I asked. Court. I'm just being realistic. Realistic. He'd spent 2 months lying to me. But now we were being realistic. I haven't even said I'm keeping it, I replied. Then when can I pick it up? Pick it up. Like I was returning something defective. You can come get it, I said evenly. There was a pause. I don't want to see you. That landed harder than the legal threat. You didn't seem to have a problem seeing Emma, I said. He went quiet. Don't make this uglier than it has to be, he muttered. Ugly. As if he hadn't already taken a blowtorch to the whole thing. That night, I finally took the ring off. My finger felt strangely light without it. I turned it over in my palm. Oval diamond. Platinum band. Clean lines. Beautiful craftsmanship. It wasn't just jewelry. It was proof that I trusted someone. And now he wanted it back like a refund. I set it on the coffee table and just stared at it. $8,000. That's what he'd paid. But what about the non-refundable deposits? What about the PTO I'd already submitted for a honeymoon that wasn't happening? What about explaining to my parents why invitations had already gone out? What about sitting across from clients while pretending I wasn't unraveling inside? Those didn't have receipts attached. The next morning, I met my sister Abigail Anderson in Houston on a quick weekend visit. I needed distance from Dallas. We sat on her back patio, iced coffee sweating on the table. He wants the ring back, I told her. She blinked. Already? 3 days after moving out. Didn't he cheat? Yes. Then I don't feel bad for him. It's not that simple. Why not? Because legally, he might be right. Because engagement rings are generally considered conditional gifts. Because if he sued me, a judge might side with him. I didn't say that out loud. Instead I said, it feels like he wants to win something. She nodded slowly. He already lost you. Maybe he needs to feel like he didn't lose everything. That thought stuck with me. Because here's what no one talks about. When someone cheats, they don't just betray you. They still expect fairness. They still expect reason. They still expect you to operate by the rules. But the rules didn't protect me. The rules didn't stop him from lying. So why was I suddenly obligated to protect his investment? 2 days later, he texted again. When can I come by? No softness. No acknowledgement of what he'd done. Just scheduling. I typed, deleted, typed again. Why do you want it so badly? It's mine. Is that what this is about? Ownership. It's about principle. Principle. That word almost made me laugh. You don't get to talk about principle, I wrote. Not after what you did. There was a long pause before he replied. If you don't return it, I'll take you to court. There it was. Clean. Direct. A threat wrapped in calm language. I stared at the ring sitting on my table. And for the first time, the idea of keeping it wasn't about spite. It was about balance. He cheated. He shattered the wedding. He walked away with minimal financial damage. And now he wanted to recover his loss too. I didn't respond to his message. Instead, I picked up the ring, slipped it back into its box, and closed the lid. And I started thinking about something I hadn't considered before. If he wanted to reduce our relationship to a transaction, then maybe I could too. I didn't answer Liam's "I'll take you to court" text. Not because I was scared. Because I wanted to think clearly. I'm a financial analyst. My entire job revolves around risk versus reward. You don't react emotionally. You assess exposure. So I did what I always do when something feels overwhelming. I made a list. If I return the ring, he recovers $8,000. I absorb venue loss. I absorb florist deposit. I absorb catering retainer. I absorb humiliation. If I keep it, he might sue. I might lose. I might look petty. But I recover something. The math wasn't romantic. But neither was infidelity. 2 days passed without a response from me. Then he called. Are you ignoring me? He asked. I'm thinking. About what? It's not complicated. It is, I said. You cheated. That complicates it. That doesn't change the law. There it was again, the law. You're really ready to drag this into small claims court? I asked. If I have to. His tone wasn't angry. It was clinical. Like he was debugging code. Something about that steadiness bothered me more than if he'd yelled. You didn't offer to split the wedding deposits, I said. That's different. How? You're the one canceling. I almost laughed. You think I'm canceling for fun? Silence. Then I said I was sorry. Sorry doesn't reimburse anything. Another long pause. I'm not paying for a wedding that's not happening, he said finally. And I'm not handing you back a ring like this was a normal breakup. There it was. The line drawn. That night, I drove to Deep Ellum without really planning to. There's an independent gold buyer on a side street there. I've passed it 100 times. Never thought I'd go inside. The neon sign buzzed faintly. I sat in my car for almost 10 minutes before getting out. This wasn't revenge. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt practical. Inside, the place smelled faintly metallic. The man behind the counter looked up. Can I help you? I placed the ring box on the glass counter but didn't open it immediately. Yes, I said. I'd like an appraisal. He examined it under a loupe. Weighed it. Checked the stamp inside the band. It's good quality, he said. Platinum. Nice stone. I nodded. He wrote a number down on a slip of paper and slid it toward me. $4,200. Almost half of what Liam paid. The irony wasn't lost on me. This is cash. I asked. Yes. I stared at the ring one last time. Lake Tahoe. Sunset. The promise in his voice. All of that reduced to market value. Okay, I said. The transaction took less than 10 minutes. He counted the bills. I signed a form. And, just like that, the ring wasn't mine anymore. Or Liam's. It was inventory. When I walked back to my car, I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel vengeful. I felt steady. Because here's the thing no one says out loud, when someone cheats, you lose leverage. Emotionally. Socially. Sometimes financially. Selling the ring didn't fix the betrayal. But it meant I wasn't the only one absorbing a loss. 3 days later, Liam showed up at the apartment. Unannounced. I opened the door, surprised. I texted you, he said. I didn't agree to this. Where's the ring? Straight to it. I didn't move aside. I don't have it. His face changed instantly. What does that mean? It means I sold it. The silence that followed was heavier than anything we'd argued about before. You what? I sold it. To who? That's not relevant. His jaw tightened. You had no right. I felt something inside me settle. You had no right to cheat. That's not the same. Why not? It was my property. It was our engagement. His voice rose slightly. You don't get to keep $8,000 because you're hurt. And you don't get a refund because you panicked. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. How much did you get? He demanded. $4,200. He actually laughed, sharp and humorless. So you made sure I took the bigger loss. No, I said evenly. The market did. His eyes flashed. I'll sue you. You can try. We stood there in the hallway of the apartment building, neighbors probably listening through thin walls. You think this makes you even? He asked. No, I said honestly. It makes me not the only one paying. He shook his head. This is low, Olivia. I held his gaze. Cheating was lower. He didn't have a response to that. He just walked away. And as the elevator doors closed behind him, I realized something. For the first time since I found that message on his phone, I didn't feel powerless. I felt like I had decided something instead of reacting. But the real question hadn't hit yet. Because now it wasn't about whether I should return the ring. It was about whether I was ready to defend selling it. Liam didn't text me that night. He didn't call either. That almost made it worse. Because silence with him usually meant calculation. The next morning at 9:12 a.m., I got the email. Subject line, formal notice. He'd written it like a business memo. Olivia. Since you've admitted to selling the engagement ring, I expect reimbursement of $8,000 within 14 days. If payment is not received, I will file a claim in small claims court in Dallas County. No emotion. No mention of Emma. No mention of the wedding. Just reimbursement. I read it twice. Then a third time. What struck me wasn't the threat, I expected that. It was the number. 8,000. He wasn't subtracting what I sold it for. He wanted the full amount. Like the transaction in Deep Ellum hadn't even happened. I called him. You're asking for $8,000? I said. You sold my property. I sold something you gave me. It was conditional. You broke the condition. That's not how it works. There it was again, the calm tone, like he was explaining tax brackets. You cheated, I said. That's how it works. That's emotional. The law isn't. Neither is betrayal. He exhaled slowly. You're going to lose. Maybe, I said. But you're not getting a check from me in 2 weeks. He didn't respond immediately. I don't want this to get ugly, he said finally. It already is. And I hung up. That weekend, the story started circulating. Not the cheating, the ring. Henry Lopez, Liam's best friend, messaged me. Did you really sell it? Yes. That's messed up, Liv. Is it? He paid for it. And he slept with someone else. That's separate. Separate. It amazed me how quickly people compartmentalized infidelity once money entered the conversation. By Sunday night, I'd heard from 3 mutual friends. All some variation of, this feels extreme. It's not a good look. Just give him the money back. No one asked how I was sleeping. No one asked how canceling the venue felt. It was suddenly about fairness. Fairness. I started to doubt myself for the first time. Not about selling it. About how it looked. Because from the outside, stripped of context, it does sound bad. Woman refuses to return engagement ring. Sells it. Petty headline material. But context matters. 2 months of cheating. 2 months of lying while we finalized guest lists. And 0 offer from him to split any non-refundable wedding costs. I opened my budgeting spreadsheet that night. Venue loss, $2,300. Florist deposit, $1,100. Catering retainer, $1,400. Invitations and design, $650. Total unrecoverable loss, just over $5,400. I stared at the number. He was out $8,000. I was out over $5,000. And I was the only one who got cheated on. Balance isn't always clean. 4 days later, a certified letter arrived. Dallas County Small Claims Court. He wasn't bluffing. He filed for the full $8,000. I sat on my couch holding the envelope, Atlas curled beside me, and felt something unexpected. Not fear. I felt irritated. Because this wasn't about money anymore. It was about narrative. He wanted to be the wronged party. He wanted documentation saying I owed him. He wanted to rewrite the ending so he wasn't just the guy who cheated. He was the guy who got robbed. I called my sister. He actually filed, I told her. She didn't sound surprised. Are you scared? A little. Do you regret selling it? I looked around my apartment. The wedding binder still on the shelf. The empty space in the closet where his suits used to hang. No, I said. I don't. Then you'll deal with court. She paused. But Liv. Yeah, you need to be prepared for the possibility that you lose. I knew that. Legally, engagement rings are often considered conditional gifts. Marriage didn't happen. On paper, it looks simple. But courtrooms don't factor in humiliation. They don't factor in betrayal. They don't factor in emotional damage. They factor in transactions. And technically, I had converted his purchase into cash. The hearing date was set for 3 weeks later. 3 weeks of knowing we'd be standing across from each other in a courtroom in Dallas, arguing over the price of a promise he broke. He texted once after the filing. You could have avoided this. I replied with one sentence. You could have avoided all of it. He didn't respond. As the court date got closer, something strange happened. I stopped feeling defensive. I stopped replaying what friends were saying. I stopped second-guessing the pawn shop. Because the truth was simple. He cheated. He wanted a refund. I chose not to give him one. Now a judge would decide who was wrong. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't bracing for heartbreak. I was preparing for impact. Small claims court in Dallas doesn't look like television. No dramatic speeches. No jury. No cinematic tension. Just fluorescent lights, folding chairs, and a judge who's probably seen every variation of "it was a gift" imaginable. I wore a navy blazer and low heels. Not to intimidate him, just to feel structured. Contained. Liam was already there when I walked in. Gray button-down. Neutral expression. Phone in his hand like this was just another meeting. For a second, it hit me how absurd this was. We once argued over wedding colors. Now we were waiting to argue over $8,000. When the bailiff called our names, we stepped forward. No eye contact. No acknowledgement. Just procedure. Judge Carter flipped through the file. Mr. Smith, she began, you're seeking reimbursement for an engagement ring valued at $8,000. Yes, Your Honor. And Ms. Martinez, you sold the ring? Yes. She nodded once. Let's keep this simple. Liam spoke first. It was a conditional gift. Marriage did not occur. She refused to return the ring and instead sold it. I'm requesting the full value. His tone was calm. Controlled. Like we were discussing a misplaced asset. The judge turned to me. Ms. Martinez? I kept my voice steady. He cheated 2 months before the wedding. I canceled the venue. I absorbed over $5,000 in non-refundable deposits. He offered no reimbursement. The ring was part of an engagement he chose to violate. The judge's expression didn't change. Did you intend to marry him when you accepted the ring? She asked. Yes. And did he? Liam shifted slightly. Yes, he said. The judge made a note. When did the affair begin? 2 months before the wedding, I said. She looked at him. Is that accurate? He hesitated. Yes. That hesitation mattered more than he realized. The judge leaned back slightly. In Texas, she said calmly, engagement rings are generally considered conditional gifts. The condition being marriage. If the marriage does not occur, the ring is typically returned. There it was. The word typically. But, she continued, there are exceptions when fault is involved. Liam's posture stiffened. Mr. Smith, she said, did your conduct contribute directly to the cancellation of the wedding? Silence. Yes, he said quietly. That was the first time all morning he didn't sound rehearsed. The judge looked between us. So we have an engagement terminated due to admitted infidelity by the purchaser of the ring. She paused. Ms. Martinez, how much did you sell the ring for? $4,200. And what were your documented unrecoverable wedding expenses? I handed over my spreadsheet printout. She scanned it briefly. Approximately $5,400. She set the papers down. This court recognizes engagement rings as conditional gifts. However, where one party's misconduct directly causes the dissolution of the engagement, the equities shift. Equities shift. I almost smiled at that phrase. Mr. Smith, she said evenly, you are not entitled to full reimbursement. His jaw tightened. However, she continued, Ms. Martinez does not retain full claim to the proceeds either. My stomach tightened. The judge finished. Given the documented expenses and the resale value, the court finds that neither party is entitled to additional payment. The matter is dismissed. For a second, I wasn't sure I'd heard correctly. Dismissed. No one owed anyone. The loss was shared. The ring, and the money from it, was effectively absorbed into the wreckage of the engagement. Liam stared forward, expression unreadable. I felt steady. Not victorious. Not vindicated. Balanced. Outside the courtroom, he finally looked at me. That's not fair, he said. Neither was cheating, I replied. You walked away with $4,000. I walked away with $5,000 in losses. He shook his head. You could have just given it back. You could have just stayed faithful. We stood there in the hallway for a moment longer than necessary. Then he said something softer. I didn't think you'd actually sell it. I didn't think you'd actually cheat. That ended it. He walked toward the elevator without another word. And for the first time since I saw that message from Emma, I didn't feel like I was reacting anymore. I felt like I had held my ground. But the story wasn't over. Because winning in court, or at least not losing, doesn't automatically fix how people see you. When the judge dismissed the case, I thought that would be the end of it. Legally, it was. Socially? Not even close. By the time I got home from the courthouse, my phone already had 2 unread messages. One from Henry Lopez. Can't believe you actually fought him on this. Fought him. Like I dragged him into something unnecessary. The other was from a mutual friend. Did you really keep the money? I stared at that one for a while. Keep the money. As if I'd profited from a breakup. As if the $5,000 in canceled deposits didn't exist. As if humiliation didn't have weight. I didn't answer either message. Instead, I took off my blazer, sat on the couch, and let the silence settle in the apartment. No wedding binder open on the table anymore. No ring box. Just me and Atlas, and a quiet that felt different this time. Not hollow. Just final. Over the next week, I noticed the shift. Invitations to group dinners slowed down. A few people who used to text me regularly went quiet. Henry posted something vague on Instagram. Accountability matters. Integrity matters. No names. But it didn't need them. I thought about responding publicly. Posting the spreadsheet. Posting the court ruling. Posting the fact that Liam admitted the affair under oath. But I didn't. Because once you start defending yourself online, you never really stop. And I was tired. Liam didn't contact me after court. No angry messages. No apology. Just silence. Which, honestly, fit him. He wasn't the explosive type. He was the quiet, resentful type. The kind who would tell the story differently in every room. In his version, I'm sure it sounds simple. She sold my ring. Full stop. No nuance. No timeline. No mention of Emma. It's cleaner that way. About a month later, I ran into him unexpectedly. A grocery store in Uptown. Of all places. He was in the produce section, staring at avocados like they personally offended him. We both froze when we saw each other. This time, he walked over first. You look fine, he said. So do you. There was an awkward beat. I heard you're dating, he added. I hadn't expected that. I've had coffee with someone, I said. That's about it. He nodded slowly. I didn't think you'd move on that fast. I almost laughed. You moved on before we broke up. He flinched at that. Fair. We stood there under fluorescent grocery store lights, 2 people who once toured wedding venues together. I didn't mean for it to go that far, he said quietly. It was the same sentence from the bathroom floor the day I found out. It did, I replied. He looked down at the floor tiles. I never thought you'd sell the ring. You never thought I'd hold a boundary, I corrected. That landed. Because that's what this really was. Not revenge. A boundary. He nodded once. I guess I underestimated you. I guess I overestimated you. That was the cleanest summary of us. He didn't argue. He just said, take care, Olivia. You too. And that was it. No yelling. No final speech. Just closure that didn't feel cinematic. It felt adult. A few weeks after that, I got a message from a mutual acquaintance I barely knew. Honestly, I respect what you did. That surprised me. Why? I asked. Because he thought you'd fold. That sentence stayed with me. For months, I'd been questioning whether selling the ring made me petty. Whether fighting in court made me cold. Whether I'd traded the moral high ground for a few $1,000s. But maybe that wasn't the right lens. Maybe this wasn't about punishment. Maybe it was about refusing to be the only one who paid. I didn't win money in court. I didn't beat him. The judge didn't side dramatically with me. She balanced the loss. And maybe that's what relationships sometimes reduce to when they implode. Balance sheets. Loss distribution. Who absorbs what? Do I ever wonder if I should have just handed the ring back and walked away cleaner? Yes. It would have been simpler. It would have made me look gracious. But I also know myself. If I had given it back quietly, I would have replayed that decision every time I thought about the venue deposit. Every time I remembered him saying, it's mine. Selling it didn't erase the betrayal. It didn't undo the 2 months of lies. But it reminded me that I wasn't obligated to protect someone who didn't protect me. So now, months later, when people occasionally ask about it, carefully, like they're testing the water, I don't get defensive anymore. I just tell the truth. He cheated. He wanted a refund. I said no, and a judge decided we'd both carry part of the cost. Maybe that makes me petty. Maybe it makes me fair. I still go back and forth sometimes. So I'll ask the same thing I've been asking myself. If someone breaks the promise attached to a ring, do they automatically deserve it back? Or is that just another way of saying they should get a clean exit from something they ruined?